A slight change to the agenda today. We've had one of our speakers cancel, so we're going to still lead in with Dr. Marcos Pelenur from the EECA, just around the perspective journeys to net zero. Then we're going to invite a couple of our trade stall people in to talk to aspects of what they're doing in the industry, and then we're going to finish out with Grant Burke from Renai on the role of modern appliances in the renewable gas journey. So a slight change to the agenda. We're still looking at finishing up around 12:30. So on that note, we'll kick off with our first introduction this morning. I'll introduce Dr. Marcos Pelenur to the stage, if I could. Marcos is the CEO of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, known as EECA. Marcos has held a number of leadership roles across energy markets, natural resources, science, including stewardship of the New Zealand science system and oversight of the Crown's petroleum and mineral estate. Before joining EECA, Marcos led the energy and sustainability practice for the behaviours insights team in North and Latin America. Marcos has a PhD in engineering from the University of Cambridge, is a chartered professional member of the Engineering New Zealand.
All right, kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa. I am Marcos. It's great that we got a second speaker in. Otherwise, you just have to listen to me for 45 minutes, and it would be pretty tedious. I'm not going to just go into use cases. I've been in the role for a year now. I want to talk a little bit about EECA and what EECA is doing under the new government, how we can support the gas sector, the vision that we see that we can do from government's perspective, and then I will touch on a few use cases. I've got a lot of material. So apologies, I'm just going to canter right through it because I want to leave time for some Q&As. Is there... Okay. All right. Look. New strategy at EECA. We've got 3 strategic focus areas for us. Energy efficiency first, getting people to understand the value of energy efficiency and make energy efficient choices. Empower energy users, which is all about helping people manage and make the best use of their energy, and accelerate renewables. I'm going to talk about accelerating renewables. I'm not talking about the supply side, upstream generation. I think the market will take care of that. I'm talking about demand side measures, and it's not just electrification, it's low emission fuels. I think the key takeaway from this slide is around energy users and the role that EECA has with empowering energy users. If I think about the different functions of government, you got MB with their strategic policy or their energy strategy on a page that Paul talked about yesterday. You've got the Electricity Authority, looking at the market settings. I see EECA squarely sitting and boxing from the corner of energy users, domestic, residential, industrial, commercial. We are here to try and help people make the most of their energy. How do we do that? And this is how I'm going to structure the rest of my chat. 3 levers: regulations, information motivation, and targeted investment. So we are a product regulator. We look after energy end using appliances, including gas appliances. We set the minimum energy performance standards as a set of criteria on that. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The information and motivation lever, I'm going to also go into that. We do a lot of engagement campaigns, but more than just engagement campaigns, we help create use cases, case studies, and a lot of our coordination work to try and overcome these knowledge gaps or coordination problem. And then finally, targeted investment, right? And a few years ago, GIDI was the big thing in town, government investment to decarbonize industry. GIDI is no longer there. We still have some support measures in place, and I'll talk about that. The one probably quite relevant to the audience here is thinking about low emission heavy vehicles. Basically what I said. Okay. I also wanted to do some plugs for things that I think will be helpful for the audience. So the first those are the levers. First one I want to talk about is our information motivation, includes research. We are custodians of the energy end use database. So this supports MB's top-down model. We provide a bottom-up model. So it is looking at energy use from the bottom up. It's freely available. It's on our website. I would strongly encourage anybody who's interested in understanding or getting a view of energy use across the country, whether it's by industry, by use type, by fuel, to use our EEUD. I think John Kidd did a great job on day one, kind of outlining the macro picture. So again, I'm not going to spend too long on here. Gas is an important part of our energy mix, no doubt. It's actually critical to energy in New Zealand, and I don't have to tell you guys that. And when we start to look at energy consumption, you can see the important role that gas plays within an energy perspective. Coincidentally, it's also 12% of our emissions profile in the energy sector. If we drill down a little bit into large energy users and the role of gas that we see for large energy users, we see natural gas playing a significant role, and particularly in Taranaki, around process heat and large sites. There's a really big opportunity for us when we think about our resources, about how do we make the most and capture the most value from our resources. Another plug is the regional heat demand database. We've got the energy end use database, and we've got a regional heat demand database. And we've worked with 800 plus large energy users around the country to map out heat demand across the whole country. Again, what we are trying to do with that is inform the market, or just try to ensure that the insights and lessons that we learn through our programs are available for market participants so that they can use that information, drive better market outcomes. Okay, this is still within the information and motivation lever. This is hot off the press. This is coming next week, published on Tuesday. It is a regional energy transition accelerator. So again, a lot of the work we do is bottom up because we're starting from the energy user's perspective. You may not have heard of our RETA programs. I'm particularly proud of them. We've done all of the South Island regions, including a aggregated South Island report. We're now working our way through the North Island. Taranaki's report is coming out next week. It is looking at energy transition pathways for each region. What we try to do is basically link supply and demand, EDBs, Transpower, councils, all into a room, and we just try to map out and shine a light on where the opportunities are. And then we publish a report, which again is just trying to bridge this coordination problem, which I think is a classic role, an appropriate role for government. Can't do it alone. I really want to thank Taranaki Venture, the Economic Development Agency. I want to thank PowerCo. I want to thank the forestry owners in Taranaki, the energy sector, the large users, the council, the EDBs. It takes a lot of time from people. We ask a lot of questions. It always usually starts with a little bit of eye rolling, but then it ends with a whole bunch of appreciation and thank yous, and people get a lot more value out of it than they expect to. And there's some really interesting insights in the report that I want to share. Not surprisingly, I'm going to really focus in on energy efficiency. And apologies, I'm not, that's probably the graph is not readable at this scale, which maybe will be like a little bit of a breadcrumb to go and get the report and download it next week. I think the headline for this slide is that when we look at energy efficiency, demand optimization, conversions for where appropriate to heat pumps, we see a 31% improvement in energy use or decrease in energy use. Okay, this is bread and butter, in my opinion, no-brainer stuff that we should be doing to improve productivity for our industries. And then I think to try and lance a question that I sometimes get, if it's such a no-brainer, why isn't it being done at the moment? I think that's a valid question. It's a perennial question that doesn't just apply to energy use. It applies to business practices in New Zealand. It applies to a whole range of things. For example, why don't we apply best practice to long-term management assets and management plans? Coming from Wellington, I'm always asking that question. There's opportunities that just because something is there on the table, the money's on the table, it doesn't mean that those businesses have the free hand to actually be able to grab it. It's not their priority, and so it gets forgotten about. Part of what we are trying to do at the authority, the Energy Efficiency Authority, is shine a light on that opportunity, really shine a light on the money on the table, and then help where we can so that businesses can grab it for themselves. We believe that there's a national interest in increasing energy efficiency and productivity for businesses because that's how we're going to help improve economic productivity. Energy is a core input into everything that we do. We should be making the best use of the energy we have. I think particularly for gas, if we think about how critical gas is for us, and in Taranaki, where we have two large, where gas is used as inputs for two large petrochemical processes, I would much rather see gas being used for high value outputs than what I would consider outputs that can be replaced by something else. So for me, it's about increasing the value stack of our resources. And I think energy efficiency has a really important role to play. And I think by doing that, we're able to then also support gas's best use. From a number side, we expect that if you were to capture those benefits, we would see $480 to $620 million of optimized asset or deferred costs for network assets. And this is the wider point that I try and make around demand flexibility as a country. You know, you look at the demand forecast for electricity, and we will need to build to achieve that. But where I challenge my colleagues in Transpower and others is, have they properly optimized the role that demand flexibility can take to smooth out those build costs? Because from where I am sitting and the numbers that we've looked at, if we properly can use energy efficiency and demand flexibility, and we've got a great demand response market, that's a expected deferred cost of somewhere between $4 to $6 billion. Right? No-brainer stuff. I think there's been a lot on biomethane. I'm not going to go much more about it. I can't probably say anything better than what's already been said. Just to highlight the report that Becca, that we co-founded with Becca and Fonterra and First Gas. It's a really exciting space. People have talked about it. It's, small at the moment. The opportunity is big. Like, why not? This is just going back to making the best use of our resources. Why not lean into biogas, biomethane, and just be more efficient as a country with what we have? So we're big supporters of that. And a couple of the case studies at the end, I will talk to that. Okay. Regulation. Not very many people get excited about regulation. I get excited about regulation. So I talked about my first lever at EECA, information and motivation, right? The key message of the last few slides is that EECA tries to support an efficient market by providing quality information and advice. So if you are interested in understanding energy use or making the most of energy that might be on your site, please come chat to us or use the resources that we have freely available. I want to talk about regulation now as our second lever. It is really important. We are looking at gas water heaters at the moment. This is just a little bit of a sales data. I think it just represents, the wider economic conditions we're in as a country. I think what I wanted to just let folks know is that we will be starting to do compliance checks this year on gas water heaters, instantaneous and not. So as part of the regulator's function, we do a bunch of check testing on all of our appliances to make sure that they meet standards, because the last thing we want is for consumers to spend their hard-earned dollars on a appliance that doesn't deliver the performance that they expect. And so we will do check testing as appropriate, and then we will work with people who are not compliant to find a resolution that hopefully avoids any kind of serious steps there. The next thing to talk about is that we do this in conjunction with Australia. So we are part of the E3 program. We develop all of our standards trans-Tasman jointly with Australia. And we are also working on a comparative methodology for residential heaters and how we can actually have a single tool to compare different fuel types across Australia and New Zealand. I've been going quickly, but that's okay. Hopefully people have lots of questions. If you have hard questions about anything to do in government, please ask me. I'm happy to take it. Okay, I think I just wanted to let people know about the regulations. I didn't have many slides there. Some people don't quite realize the role that EECA plays as a regulator. It is an important role, and it's one that we take very seriously. I think the third and final slide is around just some of the use case studies. So we have funding support to try and help energy users make the most of their energy, and that's both from a demonstration of technology, but also from a process perspective. I don't have exciting pictures from sort of the kill chain on the meat processing sites that we work with, probably not appropriate, but one of the case studies that we're really proud of is working with APCO and South Pacific Meats, where we've helped fund a 2 megawatt methane organic waste to process heat plant. So successfully commissioned a 2 megawatt gas boiler, maximizes methane production during warmer months, which perfectly aligns when their peak demand is. We are similarly really proud of a project we did with Sawmill Brewery, and that was to build a new wastewater pond and helping them with their anaerobic digestion to capture biogas. And so we expect that biogas that is getting captured on site will offset about 30% of their LPG use, which can then hopefully go to somebody else that needs it. So these are the kind of projects that we are really proud to support. These are the kind of projects that I would love to continue to support. Renewable gases fits very squarely in our mandate. I should also point out that, we obviously can't do this alone, nor is it appropriate for us to do it alone. I've got great conversations going on with Master Plumbers and Greg, and working with the professional and the trades about how we help support skill development. And we've got I can't remember the full name of it, but we've got a skills and workforce program that we're kicking off with BANS as well, Bioenergy Association. So we are also here to try and support the sector, deepen and broaden capability and skills to deliver and continue to deliver into the future. And of course, transport, right? We have been proud to have supported Heringa and New Zealand's first hydrogen refueling sites. We just need to get some trucks on the road now. We are working hard on that. And we've got a low emission heavy vehicle fund that is open. It is well subscribed with suppliers, and it's just early days, probably launched just a month ago. And that is there to support low emission heavy vehicle fleet. We're technology and fuel agnostic at EECA. Energy efficiency applies to all energy sources, and that's the same with our trucks. We want to try and test out and support a range of different approaches: dual fuel, hydrogen, electric, swappable batteries, not swappable batteries. We just want to give it a go so that the market can then understand, ideally, what the total cost of ownership is, but that takes time. And as much as possible, just understand costs and benefits so that, again, there's good information to make decisions on. So I think in summary, do I have a summary slide? No. In summary, gas plays a pivotal role in our energy system, right? It's also going to play a pivotal role as we transition to net zero. And there's a lot of interesting opportunities that people have talked about in biomethane, biogas, that we're really excited to support. And I can't finish without saying that the energy efficiency opportunities to improve the performance of appliances and energy processes is there and is real. And hopefully with the report that we publish next week, there'll be a clear pathway to grab those opportunities. And I look forward to working with the sector, collaborating and innovating on this journey. Thank you.
The Slido device. Has anybody got any direct questions?
Maybe just the downtrend in the gas or heating. What's driving that?
Yeah, we saw peak sales of 56,000, and previous year it's declined to 40,000. I can't give you an objective answer as to what I think. I would speculate it's a range of issues, but the economic conditions that we're currently in right now, I suspect has a major role to play in that. No, I think across the whole marketplace, from small to commercial to larger, the pace of activity is down. And when we're talking to large energy users and businesses that are trying to make some decisions around the boardroom, around capital allocation, there's a much stronger risk aversion.
So in terms of the EECA, the following thing I understand is on New Zealand. How does the EECA manage that position? Sorting New Zealand's emissions out and offshoring some of the emissions in terms of where the industry is doing things.
Like carbon leakage, is that what you're kind of getting to?
Say methanol, for example. There's no demand for methanol stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
So we could either send it offshore or we can keep it here. But New Zealand is protected that, right? Globally, so I'm trying to understand, does EECA have a position in that?
Yeah, we fit within the framework that the New Zealand government has around how it counts emissions. And the way that framework is, for better or for worse, has national boundaries on it. So that means that we focus on the domestic side because the work that we might do that might help reduce greater emissions elsewhere, even, that doesn't count towards the government's targets. It's nationally determined commitments. And so we operate within that framework. And this has been a challenge in a lot of different areas because we have a great environmental and health and safety regulatory system here in New Zealand compared to some other jurisdictions. So if we're going to do activity, why not here? Because we do it so well. Yep.
Yeah, when we develop standards and stuff, we often appreciate that with Australia, obviously produce costs and stuff for both parties. You say you're going to have to start testing water heaters and stuff. Most of that water heaters haven't come to this country. Also testing and improving Australia, so why can't we just jump on the back with the better testing budget in Australia?
No, I don't think we have a better testing regime than Australia. And we've got the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Act, so whatever can be sold in Australia can be sold in New Zealand and vice versa. So we're trying to create a product market. The testing isn't so much testing in order to it isn't so much so that you can sell. This is just our testing as a good, regulator to make sure that what is being sold in New Zealand is actually what it says on the tin. And unfortunately, sometimes what we get here doesn't meet the performances of what the manufacturer says it meets. So I think we just do this across all of our product classes. We were doing electric hot water cylinders, I think, last year, and we were doing commercial chiller fridges a couple of years ago. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up about it.
You mentioned using gas in high-value uses like package processing. What are you using gas in the residential commercial space?
I guess it depends on what it's being used for. I think gas to gas to X or gas to petrochemicals, that is a strong use case the use of the hydrocarbons. I think some of you may have heard me talk about this over the last couple of days. I think generally, philosophically or principally, I think, and this maybe is a bit the engineer talking, I think that the kind of the energy density and the amazing functionality of hydrocarbon is pretty incredible. And so sticking it into an engine or a turbine and then blowing it up to create a bit of propulsion or do some, create a bit of heat, I just intuitively doesn't feel like we're making the best use of that hydrocarbon. So I just want us to, it's not going to be an and or, it's not black and white, but I would love us as a country to just extract the maximum value of the resources we have. That's kind of a long way of answering that. I think in the residential space, there are technologies like electrification that will make a lot of sense, but the market will determine that. So we want to just support quality information so that consumers and end users can make up their own choices.
Having been directly involved in 3 of the RETA reports over the last 3 years, the slowness of producing them, you're pretty reflective of one coming out, the Taranaki one that's there. But what are the lessons learned? You look at the Southland one, the South Canterbury one, there hasn't been much reflection on best practices by EECA, and that's a real question I've got being involved with it.
Yeah, well, look, I'm open to hearing that. If there's anything we can do to improve how we produce those reports and to make them more effective, let me know. On one hand, I think if I look at, and I'm not saying we should peg ourselves across other government processes, but if we look at the speed of those reports across other government initiatives, I think we're much faster than others. But one of the things that I've taken away from that I would like to change under RETA 2, because I think we're going to look at how we can expand working in the regions, not just within process heat, but starting to think about energy a little bit more holistically, particularly including transport. Doing a whole bunch of work and then producing a monolithic report is not really that useful. And what I would like to do is actually do a whole bunch of work, create a data, I'm not an IT person, but like a data pond or something that is really accessible. We might still produce a report so that somebody who just wants to read the executive summary can, but just open up all of the data that comes out of it so that anybody who might want to query or ask a question of it can produce their own bespoke reports. And that's where I'd like to go to is kind of data first, report second, rather than report first and then data second. So we'll hope.
That was the basics of that question, because the South Island, we went the other way, and it was it didn't provide an insight. A lot of it, can you just outline on that how your base funding model works, where your income comes from, who provides it? Because I think it's really important in this room to understand that.
Yeah, okay. I'll do this as simply as possible because it can be a little bit opaque in Beehive Wellington. I think that you could probably think about our funding in 3 big streams, right? We are partially levy funded, so we collect levies from 3 different levies. We are Crown funded as well, so there's a baseline appropriation that comes into EECA. So the programs we do, like for example, our technology demonstration, RETA, a lot of the regulation work, it's a mixture of levy funding and baseline Crown funding. And then we have these multi-year, let's call them like government priority initiatives. Warmer Kiwi Homes, there was GIDI, the Low Emission Heavy Vehicle Fund. Those are kind of ring-fence funding to deliver a certain thing. So ring-fence funding to deliver a certain program, baseline appropriation to deliver our statutory responsibility, and then levy support to deliver our statutory responsibility.
Yeah, can you outline that levies, what we guess and to guess, lit,
Yeah, well, we get about $20 million in levy funding a year. It's a mix of PEFML, which is the petroleum engine fuel monitoring levy. There's a gas levy, and then there's the electricity levy percentages. They change year by year, so I'll get back to you on that exact percentages. But I would probably say we work very hard to link the outputs of the activity with our levy pairs, and I'm proud of the reports that we produce. I'm proud of the activity we produce. I think it makes sense that the levy pairs are the ones that might benefit from the activities, and we will continue that type of practice.
Awesome. All right, I think time for one more quick one.
Other than the current amount of low-emission heavy vehicles sort of funding, what's the view on that program, say, in the next 5 to 10 years? Is there sort of a view to continue doing that fund in the transport space?
Good question. Fund is for 3 years. It's probably one of the only kind of direct subsidy funds that made it through the last budget round. I think if you would have listened, the minister's been clear in how he sees the government's role in the market. He would rather that government looks at ensuring the appropriate regulations are in place, that we've got the right information to allow an effective market to operate, rather than direct interventions. I can't actually comment on whether it's going to be extended beyond the 3 years or not. That'll be a minister decision.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.